Did you know that this was the last Disney animated film that Walt Disney had input on? And did you know that Winnie the Pooh is the third best-selling franchise in the world? This is 100 facts about Winnie the Pooh. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is the 22nd Disney animated feature film. It was released on March 11th, 1977. When Walt Disney's children were younger, his wife Lillian would read them bedtime stories. They loved listening to the Mary Poppins stories, which led Walt to become fascinated with owning the film rights to the books. But that's a story for another time. One night, Walt Disney could hear endless laughter coming from his daughter's rooms. So Walt went to investigate. He found out that the laughter was because of a British book written by A.A. Milne. The book was Winnie the Pooh, and Walt fell in love with the stories. He thought they would be perfect for a Disney animated feature and looked into acquiring the rights. Walt managed to buy the rights for Winnie the Pooh in 1961. He assigned veteran Disney animator Woolie Reitherman to the project. If you watched my last few videos, then you know that Woolie directed Jungle Book, Sword in the Stone, Aristocats and Robin Hood. Woolie wanted to remind the audience that Winnie the Pooh was a book and they could interact with it.
Woolie Reitherman was really the key factor behind these pictures. He, in a large way, was responsible for the art direction on it too, starting with the book stuff, like having Christopher Robin swinging on the page with all the printing. So you're always aware that this is a book that the kids can read and something that they can get involved in. He had Walt's spirit in him, and Woolie never gave up trying to make things better.
Walt Disney was a big fan of the original illustrations by E.H. Shepard. There were discussions whether to keep the original design or create something new. But Walt decided that they had to make it Disney without moving too far away from Shepard's illustrations.
Well, we all loved the Shepard drawings when we started on the picture and still do. But you can't take something like that is drawn only in certain views. We have to be able to draw the character in every position, every view. So we had to design our own characters. We decided to keep the eyes flexible so that the character could close and open the eyes, they could raise their eyelids, they could move their mouth around and their cheeks a little bit so you get the feeling of an expression, but they couldn't look like this around or up that way like Mickey could. We had to do it by turning the head, and actually it was better because it made him look more doll-like.
The designs are beautiful and now recognised around the world. The design of Winnie the Pooh is iconic. When Walt Disney began plans for Winnie the Pooh in 1961, he realised that the audience in Europe was much more familiar than the US audience. So he decided that he was going to release Winnie the Pooh as a short film first to familiarise the US audience with the characters.
We had about 2/3 of what we considered a feature in storyboards. We were in development. Some parts of it were actually in animation, some of the early areas. But we were just really thinking in terms of a total animated feature. And one day we had this major meeting with all the people involved in the Winnie the Pooh project, and Walt said, yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to platform this property. We're not just going to put out a feature, because the American public, particularly the children in America, are not familiar with Winnie the Pooh at all. So actually what he did was he sectioned it into 3 sections. And so we were all kind of like surprised and perturbed about it. We said, well, what, featurette, why? And he says, you'll see, once we have people aware of the Winnie the Pooh characters, the next time around it'll be much, much bigger. And it'll become classic. It'll become a masterpiece. You watch and see.
And I think we can all agree that Walt was right. Winnie the Pooh became a pop culture icon across the world. But I'm getting ahead of myself. They decided to put one character in the film for the American audience.
We wanted to have, and Walt wanted to have, one kind of an American character that would also bring in the youngsters in America. And gopher is a very American animal. We were pleased with him, except that we were very nervous about it, because after all, there are Pooh-ophiles. There are people that really adore Winnie the Pooh, particularly in England, and we didn't want to offend anyone. So Larry Clemens came up with this idea. He said, how about if he pops up out of a gopher hole and he says, I'm not in the book, but I'm at your service. Gopher's the name. I mean, it was just one of those wonderful, spontaneous things. And everybody said, absolutely right, I'm not in the book. Double meaning. Not in the phone book, but he's not in the A.A. Milne book either.
Dash it all, he's gone.
After all, he's not in the book, you know.
It is so important to get the right voice actor for the animation. After all, the actor only has their voice to communicate the emotion. The animator takes this voice recording and pushes it for the animation.
Walt always wanted this believable business. He wanted to transport the audience to some make-believe place that they could never go themselves. And that's what the right voice does for you.
Oh, bother.
The perfect voice for Winnie the Pooh was Sterling Holloway. He was already very familiar with Disney. He had provided the voice for Car in Jungle Book and Roquefort in Aristocats. The character developed from the voice. Winnie the Pooh became a popular character. He had the innocence of a child who is still learning about the world.
Winnie the Pooh is very straight. He's like a little child. He's just totally honest and says it just the way it happens, the way children do. They don't have any hidden meanings.
Paul Winchell invented the perfect voice for the role of Tigger. He brought so much life to the character. The voice has been mimicked ever since.
You come in and you look at all the characters on the wall. You try to see whether you can match some kind of a voice quality to the pictures that you see. I was instructed that Tigger was a very exuberant kind of a character, and that at the same time, he was a very humorous kind of a character. So I tried to put together exuberant, which was a guy who was very excited, you know, all the time, and just with his laugh and everything. The thing that I enjoyed most about the character, I really can't put it into words, but I like Tigger. There's a certain quality that I feel that I became identified with in my own mind, so that instead of just reading the lines, I would always ad-lib. I would always throw in something, like I threw in one day that, well, TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Now that the voices were cast, the animation could start and bring these characters to life. Piglet was voiced by John Fielder. Piglet was always scared, but looked to his best friend Pooh for reassurance. For Pooh and Piglet, the animators had to rethink how they would animate the characters. They had the appearance of stuffed toys, with relatively simple buttons for eyes. They had to use hand gestures and more body movements to express the desired emotions.
Piglet's so sympathetic. He's so little. and he's always trying to be such a nice guy and trying to get along, trying not to show that he's scared when he's up in the air like a kite, you know. But he does get panicky, but it's always still a kind of a restrained thing.
For the background art, the artists used a similar approach to 101 Dalmatians. This created a great appeal. This style made it appear that they were in the book as the stories were told.
We started using backgrounds on 101 Dalmatians that had painted in flatter areas, but had lines, ink lines, outlining the shapes. I think it was used to advantage on Pooh by just having the outline of the shapes in the background.
The Sherman Brothers wrote the songs for all the shorts and feature film. They had already written the music for Jungle Book, Aristocats and Mary Poppins to great success. The Sherman Brothers always wrote songs that pushed the film forward. They needed a song to show Pooh exercising to build up his appetite.
He wanted to put on weight, not lose weight. Thusly, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. When I up, down and touch the ground, it puts me in the mood. Up, down and touch the ground, in the mood for food.
On February the 4th, 1966, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree was released. Shortly after, Walt began work on the second short film, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. Unfortunately, Walt would not live to see the release of this film.
3 years later, we put out the second Winnie the Pooh, which was the Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day.
And it won the Academy Award.
Not only did it win the Academy Award, it was a very, very, very successful featurette, and Winnie the Pooh became like an established Disney character. I mean, he was as fully accepted around the world as any of the previous characters had been. That was, in a sense, a tribute to Walt Disney, too, because it came out after Walt's death, of course, and yet it was something he had personally been very much involved with. So, although he wasn't there to supervise it, Winnie the Pooh and the Gillespie Day was Walt's last great achievement. And now people refer to it as another Walt Disney masterpiece.
To keep in line with what Walt imagined, the first 3 short films were combined to make a Winnie the Pooh feature film. The film was released on March 11th, 1977. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh holds a unanimous critic approval rating of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh was first released on VHS in the early 1980s. The 25th anniversary DVD that was released in 2002 had a digital restoration which made the animation burst out of the screen in the best quality ever seen. Winnie the Pooh and his friends have become pop culture icons. I don't even know how to start talking about the effect that they've had, but I guess I'll start with the facts. The Winnie the Pooh franchise has seen 6 feature films, including The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, The Tigger Movie, Piglet's Big Movie, Pooh's Heffalump Movie, Winnie the Pooh, and Christopher Robin. There have been 9 direct-to-video films. My favourite being Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin. In this film, Christopher Robin goes to school, but the gang misread his letter and go on an adventure to find him. There have been 4 television series, including Welcome to Pooh Corner, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, The Book of Pooh, and most recently, My Friends Tigger and Pooh. There have been 11 video games. Although I use the word video game lightly, most of them are learning games. He also plays a key part in the Kingdom Hearts series. They can be found inside the book 100 Acre Wood. But now it's time to talk about the exciting part, Winnie the Pooh in the Disney parks. Winnie the Pooh and friends are almost megastars in the Disney parks across the world. There have been meet and greet characters of Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, Eeyore, Rabbit, and Kango and Roo. A dark ride based on Pooh was opened in Magic Kingdom at Disney World in 1999. It replaced Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which upset some loyal fans at the time. But the ride has become incredibly popular with the guests. Versions of this ride opened in Disneyland in 2003, Hong Kong Disneyland in 2005, and Shanghai Disneyland in 2016. The merchandise for Winnie the Pooh is extremely lucrative to Disney. Analysts believe that Pooh is worth between $3 billion and $6 billion annually. Yeah, you heard that right, not overall, per year, between $3 billion and $6 billion. This makes Winnie the Pooh the 3rd best-selling franchise in the world, even beating Mickey Mouse himself, Star Wars, Disney Princess, Harry Potter and Marvel. There are even some reports saying it's the 2nd best-selling franchise because the top 3 switch quite often. Winnie the Pooh is worth this due to the retail sales of merchandise over the years. It has made $76 billion in merchandise so far. When you are in Disneyland, you can see almost any product with Pooh merchandise. This includes books, plush toys, clothing, pins, Mickey ears. In 2003, Disney almost lost the rights to Winnie the Pooh as the rights were coming to an end and they could have returned to the A.A. Milne family. The family could have then sold the rights to another company. Luckily, Disney managed to retain the rights. It bought the rights for $350 million. This is the nation's biggest literary contract ever. It paid the lump sum, so now the rights expire in 2026. There is so much to discuss about Winnie the Pooh, there is no way I could discuss it all in one video. One day I will create a whole video dedicated to the franchise of Winnie the Pooh, and there is so much from films, TV, parks and merchandise to talk about. If you are new to the channel, I am aiming to do 100 facts about every Disney animated film ever. I have done the first 22 films so far, so subscribe and go back to check them out, and click the bell icon to be notified for the future Disney movies. The next video will be 100 facts about the Rescuers. I'll see you there.